Okay, we are live.
Morning.
Hi, Lan. So grateful for you and your willingness to do this and your curious, inquisitive mind.
Thanks for having me.
You inspired
I really appreciate it.
me.
Thank you. Yeah, I really
Yeah,
appreciate
so
this opportunity.
nice. Thank you. Lan is a member in this group, and if some of you are new to this group, I am Iryna, and I'm been an admin and a host of this group, and I created this group a year ago. It's going to be a year in August, actually. And this group was created for men. To share about sexuality, intimacy, relationship, ask questions, receive support, ask for support, and post questions or requests that you are confused about and you would like answers and you would like a feminine take from me or from other members of the group, some type of help. So I do help men as a sexuality and intimacy coach one-on-one. And yeah, so if you would like extra private support from me, please reach out. I'm always happy to connect with you. And today we're going to talk about this wonderful quote. And actually, it's a statement that I created when I when I started the work. How you show up in sex and how you show up in life. And so, yeah, and I think Lan was really resonated with that statement, and it really deeply ran in his body how he sees it for himself, and he wanted to get deeper into that. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you now.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I guess my interest in this whole area, I think started with like many of people started with an event that started it. Mostly a traumatic event. I was going through my first breakup of the first relationship I had, and it was very short but very intense. And I was, instead of kind of going externally and looking for a quick fix solution, I decided to go inside, and I started learning meditation and vipassana and seeking out spiritual teachers. And strangely enough, one of those teachers helped me. We had a session in which he just sat me down, and instead of me kind of spurring out all the stories, he would just sit there with me in silence for an hour, and I just felt the pain in the chest transform into something greater. I felt like it dissolved into butterflies throughout my whole body. It's a very weird experience. And from that moment, I became obsessed with intimacy, with those type of practices, with tantra and meditation. And so when I bumped into your work, just came across your work by chance, and saw that you guide man through something very unique, I was very captivated straight away. And especially the quote that you brought up, that everything is sex, really resonated with me, because for me as a man, everything we do in life ultimately comes down to, well, I don't know, it sounds simplified, but it does. it is connected to sex. So
Yeah.
whether or not I'm enjoying what I do as a living, whether or not I'm enjoying my day, living to the fullest, it would always translate into better sex. And the opposite, if I'm stuck in a routine, if I'm hitting my day, then I'll be in my head
Mm.
all day, and I wouldn't be able to to connect with women, um and I just wouldn't feel alive, you know. And
Yeah.
so that's what resonated, I guess, the most.
Yeah.
Um,
Beautiful. I love it.
yeah. And I think it all comes down to like two modes of living, whether or not, I think with men it's very common to be very performance oriented, right? It's about sort of achieving goals and going for what you want, and which is all beautiful, but sometimes it can be disconnected from our hearts, from our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
um, and it we kind of carry over the same mindset into the bedroom of like, I need to
Yeah.
please the woman I'm with, because I am ABC. I'm you know, looking. I've had wonderful sexual experience in the past, so I want to make sure that this goes perfectly. And so we get anxious, which is coming from good intentions, but I get super anxious and in my
Yes.
head, and in the end it's just very painful. And so I was wondering if you
Mm.
could maybe give give me your advice on how to overcome that.
That's so great and beautiful that you are so deeply aware that everything comes down to sex, whatever we do in life. And so, yeah, a lot of men who come to me, they all have performance anxiety, a lot of clients. And I do not like the word performance because, in my mind, as a woman, in my body, like it's never about a performance. It's never been about a performance. But I also, and it's not something that I expect from a man, but also not being a man and not being a cock-based person, right? It's hard for me sometimes to get to that place of like really understanding what a man, is going through in his mind when he's not able to get hard, um, and be erect at all times, because for women, we don't get to that place. We deal with other things. And so, what I invite all my clients to go into, and like usually it's a perspective shift, and it's usually is about the focus, like you focus on the intimacy with your partner, on the presence, how you can connect with her, on the connection, on this deep breathing together or eye gazing together. And not even a single woman, unless it's a really, like every woman is different, but a lot of women I know, and a lot of women that um, my clients told me about, they do not really have judgment about a man's erect or not erect penis, right? So it's the judgment's going to be there when the man cannot own whatever state he's in. So if you are in a state of like really collapse, getting small, feeling this fear, anxiety, oh my God, it's not perfect. Like what's gonna happen? Like that is energetically felt from like for me, and that would be like, oh, like come on, like we are having an intimate, vulnerable time together, and you're just like totally collapsing. Like, what am I supposed? What are you supposed for me to do? What expect me to do? So it's just that would be more disappointing than a man is like, okay, well, I'm in an intimate situation. I am fully present. So I really like not the word of performance, like using of the word performance, but like presence, right? Like, how can I increase my presence in that particular situation? How can I just like shift onto playing with my sensations and feeling into my body and feeling into what she's feeling, um, slowing everything down and embracing that whatever anxiety is happening in that particular moment, if you give it a go and like propel it even further, of course it's going to over capture you and your penis is going to respond accordingly. But if you just like acknowledge the fact that it's there and then shift into, okay, how can I be present with the sensations that I'm experiencing? How can I be present in with this beautiful moment, with this beautiful woman in this moment? Maybe I should just like feel into my heart more. Maybe I should just eye gaze into her. Maybe I should just focus on just kissing her. Like it's the most delicious kiss ever. You know, focus on like 5 senses, like your taste, your sight, your smell, like all of it starts to get activated if you allow yourself to get to that place. And pleasure. How can I focus on pleasure? Presence, pleasure instead of performance. And it's obviously easier said than done. But that's like my, like recommendation for a lot of men that I work with. And yeah, we do certain practices and certain internal work where I guide them into that place of shift.
Yeah. It's very interesting the way you describe it, because with the way you describe pleasure, because you know sometimes pleasure gets equated with just momentary ejaculation with orgasm in men, and so we forget about other senses, like you say. We forget about the touch, we forget about the smell, we forget about the intensity of those simple gestures, of those small gestures. um I was wondering if for example, do you think it's a good idea, if you communicate well, that something came up in me that has nothing to do with her, but I need time to deal with? Is it okay to say, I'm sorry, honey, but I'm an emotion came up that I'm only comfortable dealing on my own, so I'm gonna take up some space, but it has nothing to do with you. Do you think you'd be if I communicated that way, it would make you feel maybe less confused and more receptive to that?
I would, but
Yeah.
not a lot of women are like me.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, like, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, if a man brought this up to me, I would be like, what? Like, right. So, um, it all like you see where your woman is. And a lot of, like, I should say also that a lot of women are, if they are already in a place of, if it's a one night stand, if you just met this person, I don't know if sharing that to her, she will take it. I mean, she might take it well, but she might not. Um, so if you feel like you're comfortable with that woman and she's safe to share that, yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be, you're much rather, say that. And again, like if a woman will be like, no, like this is total bullshit. Like, what are you talking about? Then that's your answer. You shouldn't be even engaging with that woman anymore. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't want to be with a woman who's not accepting your
Interesting.
vulnerability, and you want to be with someone who does. Then hopefully you are with a woman who is already, you kind of like passed with her and you're getting into intimacy where you've communicated some, and you can share that with her. It's like, hey, like something comes up, like you said, an emotion that I need to deal on my own. Can I, can I have some space? And she's like, yeah, can I support you in any way? And you're like, no, I just want to do it on my own. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me know when you're done or something. Is that?
I was wondering, yeah, it totally makes sense. I was wondering, as a
Yeah.
man, when you're in a kind of, you're with her and you're fully in that loving state, but
Mm-hmm.
she's just not receptive. She's afraid of intimacy. She's there for she's there in the way that a man is for that momentary pleasure, and everything becomes
Mm-hmm.
very sensation based and friction based. I was wondering, in
Mm-hmm.
that case, what can a man do to kind of shift her attitude and to to get her to open up and to kind of just let go and surrender?
Mm-hmm. So she is not vulnerable. Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
Yeah, she's not receptive. She's fearing intimacy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's there because she wants to be. She wants me,
Mm-hmm.
um but she's afraid of feeling. It's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for instance, in a moment in sex, it happened that I wanted to kiss her, and she was like, "Oh, no kissing. I don't like kissing. It's only for intimate partners." I'm like, "Come on, are we intimate right now?" And sh and eventually she
Yeah.
did, but she said she only kissed me because she didn't want me to leave, because that meeting has been leading up to a year. We've been living apart, and
Mm-hmm.
we've been broken up for a long time, and we kind of really digressed. We
Mm-hmm.
we 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 really kind of went about the different we went about differently how we dealt with the fact that we were apart. So for me, I was inviting the feeling. I was embracing the intimacy and the pleasures and the joys and the pain, and she kind of just shut herself from feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and said
Mm-hmm.
she didn't want to ever do that again. And I just couldn't. It was really saddening to me, and it was extremely saddening to me. But eventually, as I tried to kind of talk to
Yeah.
her through it, she got even more reactive and angrier,
Yeah.
and said who I am to tell her how to live and to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's
the whole
very
experience
important.
was
Mm. Yeah. Thanks for sharing this. It's very important mm, to really not create assumptions and fix everything, because that's what a lot of masculine brain goes into. But in the moment when you're feeling that things are not okay, really slow everything down and ask her questions. Like, is there anything that I can support you with right now? And look her in the eyes and maybe hold her hand and say, like, look, we don't have to do anything. We can just, like, I really would love to embrace you. And that's all I want. And is there anything that you have in your mind that you'd like to share with me? I would love to, I would love to listen. I would love to be there for you, to hear you out, and wait and see what she responds. And yeah, and then it's all about really creating the safe space for a woman to be in
Mhm.
whatever state she is, and a lot of us women, we like, as well as men, like all of us humans are so conditioned, are so
Yeah.
heartbroken. um I know you're coming from partially Russian background. A lot of people from that part of the world are so deeply afraid of intimacy. Like I was in that state too. It's just like there's something cultural about about that, about heart. And so yeah, a lot of women are conditioned not to feel, and it's just not to take it personally, just like to see beyond, um and kind of like see her as this beautiful creature, like who is like terrified of intimacy, right? And just like she really does not feel safe. She doesn't even herself
Mm,
understands what's happening. Like she's just like, and she would really hugely appreciate the fact if you'd like really slow everything down and really like just engage with her in just like a minimum of touch, or as I said, like just a hand holding or looking her in the eyes and having a conversation by asking her questions. What is it that I can do to help you to open up? Yeah.
it's such a great point. Safety, I think,
Mm-hmm.
providing a safe, non-judgmental space for her, and I
Yeah.
think it did go wrong in the way that I responded as well, because I also became reactive in a way when she became reactive, and that's not a good place to be. And looking back, I can see that I shouldn't have judged her for the way she was, even though it wasn't
Mm.
even though it wasn't pleasing to me or good to me. Um,
Yeah, it's really important to also decipher the types of reactions. You
yeah,
know, sometimes there's an abuse that's coming from a
mm,
woman. Sometimes it's the defensiveness coming from a place of pain. Okay, so and sometimes it comes from a place of like, I mean, it takes some really strong masculine core to develop in order to hold and to be able to differentiate either. So for the abuse, you're like, okay, well, this is like you're crossing my boundary with what you're just saying. I'm not tolerating this. I'm leaving. Once you come down, we'll talk. If it's like getting into a place where she's like, you know, defensive and but you still feel that she's kind of like coming from a place of pain and she wants to get this resolved, and then you just listen and see what that is. Yeah, it's a skill to develop, and that's why I highly recommend to all men to really get deep into getting centered, getting
yeah,
grounded, doing qigong, doing meditation. All of these practices help men to really train their strongest muscle of awareness so they can deal with that peace
yeah,
with emotions and develop their own emotional spectrum so they can handle that overwhelm, you know?
perfect. Thanks, Irina. Let's go back to
Yeah.
the centering practices that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So for me personally, I found that um, beyond, I mean, I think there's a saying, I think on the internet that says, it's not a sin to masturbate, it's a sin to masturbate badly, which is quite funny. And
Say it again. What is it? It's not.
there's like a meme on the internet or something that I read that says like it's not a sin to masturbate, it's a sin to masturbate badly.
Oh,
Which
yes.
yeah, which is
Yes.
quite funny. But which is so true. And I just realized that there aren't men were not taught really anywhere in their lives to do this. We're always shamed for when we felt sexual and kind of resorted to pornography because there was nothing else to turn into. And I heard, especially my father, he wasn't great with that. And so I was wondering, what can a man do when he starts to feel this, energy and horniness build up in him, but he wants to express it, but he wants to pleasure himself, but he doesn't know how. How would you
Hmm.
help him?
Come to me and ask for my recording. um, yeah, well, I know it's like a lot of men, they discover pornography and that becomes their tutorial. And also they like randomly discover pleasure through masturbation and they do it undercovers and afraid that somebody will walk in on them, and so everything
Mm,
comes really quickly, and so that's the habit, so just really like have an inquiry with yourself, like, okay, well, when I was 12 I was masturbating it this way because I sort of, there were certain conditions where I was a kid and I
yeah.
was afraid my parents to walk in on me. And I couldn't really do this fully. Now I am like 30, whatever, whatever your age is, 22, 24. Um, I'm a grown man. I have my own place. I can just like fully get into it, and just like put some oil onto me and just like put
Mm,
some groovy music and get into a place of ritual with myself. It's almost like you do it with yourself during meditation. It's the same thing, but you add on a component of pleasure. You turn
mm-hmm.
off or any kind of porn or any kind of visualization or fantasy. You just really like center yourself into a place of like, how can I discover and explore my body? Like, how can I touch myself in places where I haven't touched myself at all? Maybe I just like touch my anus and like go into like anal play. Maybe I just like, touch extra my scrotum and like do some other strokes. How can I just like expand my pleasure longer, not just what I usually do to get to the point of like, climax that for
Yeah.
an average man is like 5 seconds. Yeah, it's just because, create
Yeah.
that space for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and have that 20-30 minutes of self-love, self-pleasure ritual. Make it a ceremony out of it, make it not just for your genitals, make it for the entire body,
Yeah, the reason I brought up pornography is that I noticed that images, sexual images, are very much um, part of sexuality. I think that fantasies, they're part of play, even
Mm-hmm.
fantasy, dreams, and I noticed that whenever I would have those practices that you described, in the way that I would lie down to myself and I would touch myself and focus on my sensations, I would
Yeah.
feel my mind resorting back to fantasy. So
Yeah.
even though not the fantasy that I see on the internet, for example, but fantasies from my past,
Yeah.
from my experiences with my lover,
Yeah.
and that would get me going. So
Yeah.
it's not the sensation that gets me going. It's not
Yeah.
because I'll either, but then my mind gets really bored, or not bored, but not stimulated, or I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's what I wanted to ask you, because I want to
Yeah.
ask you about the role of images and fantasies. And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
like this when I'm with myself, then if I'm having an intimate moment with a woman, and I like, does that take away from the moment the fact that I'm maybe visualizing how I want her?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love this question. And a lot of men are so conditioned to have visuals, and men are visual beings. That's like, well, maybe more than women. And also, it's important to take into consideration your individual makeup, because some people, I don't know if you've heard about erotic blueprints.
No.
Yeah, so there's a quiz about erotic blueprints, and there are 5. So energetic, sexual, sensual, kinky, and shapeshifter. So I am energetic, and then I believe it's shapeshifter. So I can play with all the others. So that is important information, because some people, there's nothing wrong to have a fantasy once in a while, right? But if you retrieve to the fantasy all the time, every time you go into sexual experience, every time you masturbate, you like over and over and over, that's all you use. You use your basically just your mind to get turned on. And your body starts to kind of like sort of in a way atrophy. Like I like to say there is a station mind and a station body. So if you always use mind, like you always use fantasy, visualization all the time, it's like it's what turns you on. Like what about if you drop down into your body, into the sensitivity of your body, and spend maybe that 20 minutes of your masturbation you're going to spend not feeling any kind of arousal, but just like be there. Just be there. Allow yourself to be there, to hang there, and to like feel your penis being soft. Okay. All right. What am I experiencing? What kind of sensations are coming up? Nothing, nothing, nothing. I'm bored. Oh my God. Okay. How can I deal with my boredom? You know, that is the way of like how you can break that wall of insensitivity and numbness and go deeper into more sensations. You know.
So what does it tell you energetically that when a man is well, yeah, when a man can't feel arousal, or doesn't mean that he's disconnected from that place or it's been desensitized? What does it tell you as a, as someone who's worked with men many times?
They live in their heads. The energy's up here, and there's nothing down there. So if men experience ED, and there's a lot of clients that have experienced ED, they have no energy in the pelvis. It's just not there. And when you have been conditioning yourself for years and years and years to use just your mind to turn yourself on, well, then it's going to take some time to rewire that to different, to connect to your body. And so you would have to spend some significant time being with your body, touching your body, pleasuring your body, feeling for the sensations over and over and over again, in order to get to that point, like connect to the station body. And so, yeah, once you create the balance between two, you can use the fantasy. There's nothing wrong with a fantasy. Like I love fantasies, especially the fantasies come into play when I'm in a partnership, when I'm with someone, and like I can masturbate by myself, and I was like, whoa, this person comes into me, and I'm immediately like hot flushes all over my body, and I'm just like so turned on and vibrating. Yeah, but it's a conditioning for a lot of men, and hence a lot of men hang out in their heads. And once they do, then they experience, after 40, they experience all these dysfunctions and performance anxieties.
I see.
Yeah.
What were the 5 you said? Was it archetypes that you mentioned from
No,
the?
it was Erotic Blueprint. It
Right.
was, if you Google it, you'll find the quiz to figure out what your erotic blueprint is. Yeah. So if you're energetic, you will be sensitive to like eye gaze, or like, just like hand holding, or, certain things that, like the aura of the person. if you're sexual, you would be more into like, positions and maybe like certain thing a woman does, or like things that she wears, or maybe you would be turned on by more of a, like quickies. Like, I'm not really 100% sure on which one associated with which. But if you go into do the quiz, figure out who you are, then the teacher who created it, her name is Jaya. She has like a whole course on that, and you can take it if you're curious.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to the quote. The core for you teaching your message, that
Yeah.
the how you show up in sex is how you show up in life.
Yeah.
How did you choose that those words, and how did they come to you?
Hmm. Oh,
And on
well,
top of that, why have you chose to work with men instead of women?
yeah, great question. I remember when I was in my training, I was really contemplating on what would be a strong message. And the way I relate to sex is probably very differently than a lot of people. I view sex from like a tantric perspective. Like, from tantric perspective, everything in the nature, everything in the world is sex. Everything you see all the time, there is a union of a feminine and masculine. There's always that, like, intercourse that we see, and we as humans are part of nature, and so we also get into that, sacred union with each other. So I see sex as connection. I see sex as something that can be used, sexual energy and aliveness in us can be used to grow our spiritual practice and to um, grow our consciousness, to like expand our consciousness. And that concept, that kind of like notion translates into everything you do in life. So if you are harnessing your sexual energy, if you are feeling that aliveness inside of you, if you are not squandering your precious energy, if you just like allow your body fully unimpededly experience life inside of you, um there's so many amazing, almost like superhuman things that can show up. Like, you manifest fast things in life, like money, relationship, career, I don't know, whatever it is that you desire. Like, you become almost like limitless in how you navigate through life. And so also I chose that specifically for men because I also believe that men highly associate themselves and their identity with their sex, with their penises. Or some men give them names, right? And so, like, if you are not, if you're like negligent towards that part of you, or just like abusive, or mm, not fully connected, there is a um, certain attitude you're gonna have in life. Uh, And similarly to like if and when you're going to be engaging with women, that's going to be there as well, if that makes sense what I'm saying. I had one, I'm gonna give you an example. I had one potential client. We didn't end up working together, but he came to me specifically connected to that statement. And he had when he was 17, he had a pelvic floor injury. So he couldn't get erect after the injury, after the accident. And he would take Viagra, like, and he is a good looking man, tall, really like really handsome, and he's successful in his career, and he's all of it is good. But he said, like, I always felt there was something that was really holding me back because I wasn't fully in my sex, because I wasn't fully penetrating and being like this man. Like he could have probably been even more, successful and everything else, but his relationship were not there. He felt impeded because he couldn't get to that place of connection with his penis. And then he eventually did a few surgeries and he got his erections back, but the energy around that part was still not there. Like if you're 17 and now you're like 40, and for like this many years you haven't been experiencing what a true like erections feel like, and which men associate with manhood and masculinity and strength and power and like all
Yeah.
of those things, that's going to affect your life and your relationship and your insecurity or security with yourself.
It's
So
so interesting that you bring up
yeah.
that externally he seems like he has it all together. He has a fantastic career and a fantastic life, and yet he's disconnected from that place.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, what does it mean then for a man to be connected to his penis
Mm-hmm.
and to that part of him? And how does it manifest externally? Because when I hear that when a man is connected to his penis, I instantly think, oh, he's very masculine and he has it all together. He goes for what he wants in life and he achieves it. And it's a very sort of masculine mode of being, but from what I'm hearing you describe, it's actually connected more to the feeling itself rather than action. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So,
Got it. You got it right. Yes.
and
It's an energetic connection that he is experiencing with his penis, and it's a feeling that he's experiencing with like it's almost like becoming allies, you know, with him, have conversations with him. Um, that part of the body has the most nerve endings, has the most energy. Like it has consciousness, it has a mind of its own, it has intelligence. And so when he is not erect, there is an indication onto something. When he is erect, well, there's obviously, if a man is physiologically, healthy and everything is fine, ready to go, that's like no problem. So it's like, I like to say, your issues with sexuality for men, it's usually like a barometer. There's something off in your life, whether that's like your health is off or your psychology is off, or like there's something going on with your feelings, emotions. A lot of times, because sexuality, sex chakra is second chakra, it's also responsible for emotions. There might be blockages on how man, feels or doesn't feel. So yeah, it's all about energetic and connection with that part of the body. Yeah.
and can I ask you, I heard this dichotomy, not dichotomy, but um, you say a man, his feeling center is in his penis, and a woman's is in her heart. And so, can you then explain the difference? Because it's so sort of PC nowadays to say that, you know, women and men are all the same, but we're not. And so I was
Mhm.
wondering, how does a man's love differ from differs from a woman's love? And you know, what are you know, how does it come to be this interplay between men and women in a healthy and good relationship? You know, how does it kind of externally look, or how does it feel?
It's a really intense question. how, how do people experience love? Well, you know, and I don't know if you've heard about this, but women lead with the heart, right? And our positive pole, if you imagine a woman and a man being a battery, right, with pluses and minuses. So our positive pole is in our hearts, and hence even like the shape of our breasts, because it's protruding, it's outgoing, and we are going to be always nurturing and loving and like always taking care of everybody around us. That's how women are wired naturally. And the negative pole for women is in the vagina, which is hidden, tucked in, it's like temple. You can't really get there. It's a vulnerable place for a woman. When you look at a man, it's the opposite. A man leads with his penis and hence the shape, right? And the, it's going there and directing and dominating and all of these masculine qualities. And when you look at a man's heart, it's caved in. It's a vulnerable place for a man. And so we have the keys, like masculine has the keys to unlock the woman's vulnerable place. And the woman has the key, her heart, to unlock a man's vulnerable place. So this is like the union of two healthy masculine and feminine works usually. However, in the real world, it's not like that. We strive to be there, but it's not like that. A lot of women are shut down in their hearts due to whatever. A lot of men are shut down in their penises due to whatever. A lot of men are really like have fears of intimacy as well due to so much conditioning. And they would lead with their sex and they would fuck and they would just go, but there will be no heart present in there, you know, because there's so much sphere of intimacy. And so similar for women, like a woman can be open with her heart, but then super vulnerable down in her sex center due to sex abuse or whatever that is that happened. And so we can be healers for each other in those places, in those poles. So I think I diverted your question somewhat.
No, no, no. I think it does make sense, and I think that is the work. I
Yeah.
think is to come back to polarity, and
Mhm.
of course to heal and experience pleasure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Um, let's go back to the topic of orgasm.
Oh my
Um,
God. I love your questions. Let's do 10 more
no,
minutes.
okay,
10 more
okay.
minutes and we'll be done.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
We have a mutual friend called Chris Bale,
Mm-hmm.
and I also interacted with him um, a while ago about this topic, and he said in our culture, men have a very limited understanding of orgasm, of female orgasm, and a lot of men have a very masculine perception of orgasm, and so I asked him, in sex, do I prioritize, her pleasure over mine? And he said he invited me to think about orgasm in a different way.
Mm.
Um, he invited to kind of question that it's not just ejaculation, but to kind of bring my awareness back to my whole body and how she makes me feel in every kind of small way,
Yeah.
and have that be orgasmic.
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
And did
um,
it resonate?
it did, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but having said that, I've never, like, I was wondering, do men have the same capacity um,
Yes.
to experience the multiple orgasms as women?
Yes.
And what does it really mean for men to experience that?
Yes. Yes. Men are able to experience multiple orgasms. I have not been in a man's body, so I can't tell you what that feels like. And it really feels different for every single human being. Um, and for women as well. Just there's a women are more connected to the orgasmicness just because of the nature of feminine. And there's, it's easier for women if they're opened to get to that place. Um, for men, it's also possible to experience the full body, you know, all over like you feel this. It's not only when you have sex and you just like work it, work it, work it, and then eventually you just, okay, well, this is the place for me to feel my, blissful experience.
But I think first and
But
foremost, it's about a man coming back to his penis. I think because if there's no sensitivity there, and like you described earlier, as
yeah,
the most sensitive part of the body, then you can't really go anything beyond, feel anything beyond that. Is that
yeah,
correct?
true, true.
Yeah.
Like you first get to the sensitivity in the penis and
Yeah.
get better in that, better and better, better and better. And then once you start having sex with a partner, you start doing this, you know, breath work or, visualization, how your energy moves, awareness of presence, being so present to the sensations that are happening internally, feeling how like your energy, your sexual energy from the penis starts to circulate all over your spine. And like, and then it's if you are with a partner, then it just exchanges and amplifies and rolls, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you start like tingling and shaking and vibrating, and all kinds of things start happening with you. So you become like one with the penis. So like your whole body is just present in the whole mix of sensations. Yeah, it's not only
And would you,
localized.
hmm and so would you say that for a man to get to that place, he's, first and foremost means that he has to do his own internal work, um,
Mhm.
work through his emotional traumas and pains and transcend that, and eventually that will kind of transform into pleasure.
Oh,
Would you say?
yes and no. I have
Mhm.
clients right now actually who I'm working with, a man who is, you know, in his early 30s, and we just did 5 or 6 sessions together, and he's just been really consistent in doing every day the pleasure practices and the meditations, and he's just like
Mhm.
reporting to me experiencing this, whoa, like this divine, like he experiences a divine energy in my forehead. Like what? Like he was been doing the microcosmic orbit. Some people are sensitive just like that. They can tap into that in a month or 2 months time, because that's how much it takes for them. So for some people it
Mhm.
takes longer to get to that point. But yeah, it's you don't have to go through like all the discomfort and sadness. Actually, you probably do, but for each individual, it's going to be different, right? For some, it's going to just like, whoa, like a breakthrough in a day. For some, it's going to take a year. You know, it all depends on how your resistance towards the healing, you know, like how much pleasure can you take, right? Like some people are like, you know, a lot of times premature ejaculation happens because people cannot sustain so much pleasure,
Mm.
you know, or they're not feeling like they can hold it because it's too much.
Well, you definitely give me a lot to think about, and thank you so much for sharing um, such valuable information for free. So I really
Your
appreciate it,
questions
Iryna.
are amazing, really amazing. I'm so appreciating the fact that you jumped on the call with me with this and wanting to know all of this um, valuable, insightful information and my own experience. And yeah, like I love your questions, and please, if you have any more, let me know outside of this space. I'm just gonna check to see if we have anybody who have any questions about anything in the group.
Sure.
Okay. All right, we have greetings to Emil and David. I just go to the spiritual level of sex. Yeah, well, somebody is connecting deeply to what we are talking about. Emil, I treat it like I'm doing it for the first time with a woman. That makes my thoughts go to the present moment. Okay, I don't think we have any questions. So if you have, gentlemen, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, rewatch this live
You
and
covered
post.
everything beautifully. So, and it's definitely given me more inspiration to, um, to do my work and to relate to pleasure in a different way. So, thank you so much, Iryna. It's been lovely talking to
It's my pleasure, pun intended.
you.
Take care.
You
Bye,
too.
Lan.
Bye.